We're really pleased to see you all here. My name is Line. I'm going to be your facilitator throughout this event today. So first, a very warm welcome to all of you to this second of 5 community events that we've organized leading up to the Digital Education Hackathon running in November, on the 12th and 13th of November 2020. The aim of the hackathons is overall to, let's say, co-create the future of digital education. I know that many of you here have already planned to join either as hosts or participants, but if there are a few of you who have not heard about the DigiEduHack before, but just joined due to the interesting presenters we have today, I will inspire you to go and visit the website afterwards and have a look at the event and what it can actually offer to you as host or as participants. Again, it's a hack. It's going to run across the globe, hopefully, on November 12th, 13th, Hacking the Future of Digital Education. I'm not going to talk much more about the hacks today because we have quite a few interesting presentations ahead of us, and we want to save the time for that. What I will do, though, before we dive into the presentations of today is to give you a little background as to why we do these hacks, what's kind of the bigger agenda that we are referring to. So the Digital Education Hackathon is planned as one of many actions to back up the EU Commission's Digital Education Action Plan. The action plan seeks to support the use of technology in learning and education across Europe, but also the development of digital competencies that are so important for the, let's say, proper digital transformation that we want to see across Europe in the coming years. So it's a core tool for the EU Commission, but it's also an event that we have tried to design so that it makes a lot of sense for local organizations, institutions, school educators, edtech companies alike to actually host an event where they put their challenges out in front of a number of people that are then there to create solutions to those challenges. And today we are not here to answer a lot of questions because that will happen hopefully in November when we do the hacks. Today we are here to inspire you as potential hosts and participants to find the right challenges to work with. As I said before, we have 5 events in all and in total running these coming weeks. And this one today will be focusing in on entrepreneurship and the business perspective to digital learning and education. We will be talking a lot about all the smaller edtech companies that we see coming off ground these years and how they can be supported and what are the challenges that are facing these organizations. So on top of being inspired by a bigger agenda that's set forward by the EU Commission running across Europe, we of course are also very much aware that this spring has put extra challenges to educators and learners across Europe, or across the world of course, but since we are here on a European platform, that is what we are focusing on right now. We are operating in what many have started to call the new normal. So it's a new setup for all of us, being much more digitalized, being much more working remotely or even asynchronous than we've done before. And that, of course, puts a lot of challenges also to the companies and startups that we are going to talk about today. So I won't spend much more time diving in on the topic of today. We have a few more participants with us now, so I think it's fair to open the floor to today's speakers. So let me just start by presenting briefly who we have with us here today. First of all, I would like to welcome you, Christina Wiesen. You are, and now I will take up my small note here because there is a lot on this list and I haven't been able to kind of learn it all by heart yet. I hope I will when our collaboration has ended. But first of all, Christina, you are the founder and CEO of EduCreators Foundation, a non-profit organization supporting deep change in education. You're also yourself a seasoned entrepreneur, so we have at least one a very experienced person here with us. You've done startups in the areas of media, design, technology, innovation, and education. So that must kind of cover kind of a lot of branches. I've actually heard you describe yourself as an enthusiast by nature and a lifelong learner by design. So I know that you're one of the people that are up for grabbing new challenges and running with them. You have worked as general manager for EMEA for Evernote, the company Evernote, and managed the launch of a Swiss edtech career at EPFL, which is a technical university in Lausanne, and worked with the strategic development team at ETH Zurich as well. So you've been around and also liaison with the researchers and universities. You are actively supporting grassroots innovation and education, and that's one of the reasons why we are so glad to have you on board here today, because you know what's coming and what the newer generations of edtechs are actually working on. And you're here for the second year. You were participating in the DigiEduHack last year as well. So a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Lina, for the introduction, and hello, everybody.
Yeah, you're welcome. Marco, I think I will present you as well, and then we will go by turn afterwards, and I'll give you the power by handing you the clicker and the mic. But Marco, very warm welcome to you as well. You're also an entrepreneurial spirit. You are founder of Learning Studio, a European collective of freelancers focusing on the future of education and work. And currently you serve as the Chief Operating Officer of Code Control in Berlin. So that's a huge community of top digital freelancers in Europe. So you are, I would assume, also working a lot remotely, digitally, and around the globe. For almost 10 years, you've been building trainings and programs and education for ventures to grow relevant competencies. And you've recently launched a new university in Berlin, the Code University. So that's a thing as well. You've also been working in Paris with Tech Paris on their entrepreneurial ventures and crafting a lot of offers there for various entrepreneurs and startups. So that's quite a lot of experience and insights on your table as well. Thanks a lot for joining us today as well.
Thank you for the intro.
And you're welcome. And next to you, we have Sasha Beshuanova. Welcome, Sasha. Good to have you here as well. You are a senior executive and an angel investor and philanthropist with more than 20 years of experience. You have had a business career in HP for many, many years, and then you have now moved into supporting others with all your insights and knowledge on this topic. The list of your business achievements is super long. I'm not going to go through everything, then we wouldn't have time today. But you've, among other things, been involving in positioning Bulgaria as an ICT sector of global significance and boosting the entrepreneurial culture of women in Bulgaria. So you're working a lot with gender and women in tech. Since 2013, you have devoted yourself to supporting social prosperity through innovation, education, and collaboration. One way of doing that, I know, is by being the founder of Move, the organization Move in Bulgaria, a platform for venture creators and think tank for innovative solutions. So there's a lot of creativity happening around you as well. As I said, you are an angel investor, you are a mentor, you are a supporter, and you have helped a lot of startups to get off ground and thrive. You are founder of the yearly Entrepreneurial Award in Bulgaria, supporting young women to develop their entrepreneurial ideas and bring them into business. So we are super pleased to have you here as well with all your experience and insight into this field as well. And maybe I should mention, just because it's appropriate to do in this connection here, that you're also serving at the board of the European Institute for Innovation and Technology, EIT, which is actually behind these DigiEduHacks as well, supporting financially and with insights and power. So thanks a lot, Sasha, for being with us as well. So these are the three speakers of today. And,
thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thanks a lot. What I've done now is that I will step a little back and leave as I said, the power to the three power ladies here on the call. And we've asked you all to give a brief presentation into what you think are the core challenges for startups and edtechs in the field working with digital learning and education. And after those brief presentations, where we'll try not to interrupt, we will have an opportunity to have a dialogue between the four of us. And then we will also ask you, the participants, for joining in with a few answers to some questions we have here, because this is as much a thing for us to get to know you, get to know the people that want to join the events we have in November, the hackathons we have in November. But I think that's enough from my side. I can see that we also now have had a lot of new participants joining. So I hope my speech here has just warmed you all up. And I would like to give the word to Christina first and ask you for your reflections on the topics and how we can best support, let's say, young tech startups that are entering the field of digital learning.
Many thanks, Ida, and a warm welcome, everybody. I believe that today we are standing at an important crossroad in the history of learning and education, because profound societal changes are underway and they are forcing us to redefine the way we look at education, at work, at life in general. And the good news is that through emerging technologies, entrepreneurship, and participatory design, we now have a unique opportunity to create inclusive and empowering learning environments for the greater good. As we know, education technologies have a huge potential to democratize access to high quality education. And we've seen the edtech sector has recently witnessed considerable growth due to the pandemic, as teachers and students have been more or less forced to embrace online learning. EdTech startups and companies had the opportunity to use their expertise in order to develop practical and much needed solutions. Now, as all these EdTech entrepreneurs around the world are called to build these new learning tools, one of the key issues we absolutely need to address is that of data exploitation. And this is actually one of the central themes of DigiEduHack this year. I'd like to take this advantage of this moment, and to encourage the edtech community to get involved in this very important conversation, because we need to find answers and we need to find solutions together. Big data has a huge potential to support educational institutions, but also the students themselves in their learning journey. And this should not happen at any cost. In a democratic and in a transparent society, learners must be enabled to have an overview and to maintain control over the data that they create over time. Interdisciplinary collaboration and good ideas are much needed so that edtech startups and companies can build innovative products based on frameworks that protect the interests and the rights of data originators. So I would like to conclude my plea and share as inspiration a few possible concrete challenges related to this big topic of data exploitation. And I believe that this could be addressed by hosts, and again, edtech entrepreneurs, educators, innovators, during the DigiEduHack events around the world. Possible questions that we can look at are: how might we develop a common understanding of key issues, such as data ownership or data portability? It is not that everybody realizes how important they are and what they actually mean. Another open question can be: how might, going to the next slide, ensure that learners are provided with a complete overview of their own data, which they can access and they can manage at all times? This is a super important, very hairy, big question that has no straightforward answer, and it requires a global community to come together and really get their heads around that. Another possible open question, moving on to the next slide, is how might we develop data standards for edtech developers? Because in order for us to start building valuable products, we should have data standards. This would make, I think, all edtech startups' lives much, much easier and much better. This is something that we need to take very seriously. And last but not least, I would say, how might we find a balance between the learner's control of his data and the value of using the general information that data actually carries? This is also an important issue, because we should not look at things as black and white from the beginning, but try to understand how is it possible, on one hand, for people to be empowered and to have control over the data they produce over time, but at the same time, how can we actually tap into collective intelligence and extract that information in a way that allows us to develop better products for the greater good. So all in all, I think we need to have best practice, and we need a lot of work and a lot of, again, collective intelligence to get around this very important topic. And this is, again, one of them. It is by far not the only one. It's not the only challenge that edtech startups, entrepreneurs are facing right now, but it is definitely one super critical issue, and one that actually is important for society at large.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Christina, for that call for action. And I mean, we have invited 3 of you today because we want different angles on the challenges here. So it's perfectly fine to be addressing this kind of subtopic of data management and ownership. And by the way, if you are now starting to feel the need for asking some questions out there, all the participants, we will, of course, have some time at the end to pose some questions to the presenters. So don't you worry, just either put them in the chat or save them for later. Then we will make sure to give room for questions for the presenters. So next in line, I would like Margot to join the stage with me. And Margot, as I said when I presented you, you have been working with quite a lot with young entrepreneurs and training and education people in that field. So I would like you to reflect a little bit on what are the core challenges in that area of getting new green, so to say, startups to flourish.
Yes, with pleasure. So thank you for Christina also for building the stage already and raising this important question. So as you mentioned, and according to various studies, COVID had made the adoption of digital learning 3 to 5 years faster. Whether it's through homeschooling, remote work, remote trainings, it actually impacts all learning groups. So in short, there's like a bigger need, but also opportunities than ever in this field. So we'll gather today to talk about a pretty hot topic. I think it's good to keep that in mind. What I want to bring to attention today is actually the entrepreneurial mindset when it comes to creating new learning opportunities, and also why the special breed of entrepreneurs is key for today and especially for tomorrow. So my not so secret goal is ultimately to inspire you to become one of them through the event, but also through the next months and years. So a bit of personal context, I've been working on the future of work and education for the past 10 years with different hats, entrepreneur, freelance advisor. And my angle to also manage expectation has been adult education, and especially what we call education to employment. So rather adults and tech focus. So if we look a bit today at what's happening, I mean, many companies struggle to find the relevant talents that they need. Many learners still take very resource-intensive trainings that can be, years to get somewhere, with sometimes costs that are very heavy for them. And we're very lucky in Europe to also have a pretty, public system, and we're not talking about the US in which it's a new debt. And in between, we have sometimes static education providers that don't necessarily update the curriculum in a rapidly enough way. So altogether, this creates a mismatch that's partially responsible for a very high youth unemployment. For example, I think I checked the data, and it's about like 17% in all Europe, 40% if we look at Spain only. And yet this unemployment could be partially avoided by shorter and more flexible trainings more connected to industries and companies. So the mindset that I want to be focusing on is the one of what I would call like the educators entrepreneurs, who are not only professors with a YouTube channel, although they are an imperfect figure. And I would like to give you also, some of these options. Like, for example, I'm talking about passionate developers filming themselves as they code on Twitch, which is this very nerdy and interesting, live streaming platform. And doing so, they actually help people discover new languages and develop their skills. I'm talking about professionals in a niche branch that are gathering that network to talk about a specific topic and that are helping students to get there. So today it's just a niche, but tomorrow it might be a full industry. For example, if we look at automation processes. And in more structured way, I'm also talking about entrepreneurs starting what we call boot camps. So these 8 to 12 weeks on-site or now very much online, very hands-on training for specific competencies. So if you look at these figures, they might be different, but they have a lot in common. So in terms of vision, they see the current and future business and industry opportunities, but they also know how to recognize the missing knowledge and skills towards those opportunities. They're also capable to take action, which is a second big component. Are they capable of imagining practical learning and teaching systems around them by staying very much in an iterative mode? So you'll have new hybrid online and offline formats. You'll have a closer collaboration to companies and their realities. You'll have also focus on the next 3 to 5 years and a very much of a portfolio approach. You will also have a huge focus on community-based learning, which means that the students that you have in a class, in a small batch, are going to be the one that you find as trainers the next day. And they're also going to be the one in a couple of years who will start their own training. So it's also in positive circle. And ideally, they also have in the action integrated the fact that inclusion is extremely important. And we're not only talking about financial inclusion, making all those trainings possible for everyone, but also technologically and culturally inclusive. So not only having guys in tech, and I know it's a topic that's dear to Sasha, but making sure that anyone can start training, so we also have anyone represented for these new learning opportunities. So what kind of opportunities do we have? And what kind of opportunities do those educated entrepreneurs embrace and create? I see 4. So for learners, so those learners are offered new reskilling or switch of career opportunities. So that means that they both have access to new content, new skills, new know-how, but also a new community of practice. And on this one, this is nothing new. 400 years ago, we had draper guilds, like in Holland, who would go through all Europe, and you would have this mastership, this master's training young apprentice who would go through Europe. And today we have a bit the same stack. If you look at the bootcamp Le Wagon, for example, everyone is on Slack, which is this digital communication platform. The content is also updated as you go years back after, so you can keep on learning. For entrepreneurs, it's a unique opportunity because entrepreneurs are offered the option to shape the world that they want to see thrive. And here I've talked about tech a lot, but we also have to include SDGs and new ways of working. For example, what I see on a daily basis at Code Control, we're teaching people how to freelance as well, which can give them immense opportunities because it's more flexibility. It's also more ownership on what you want to do with your life. And it's also very important, for example, for women who have sometimes more schedule, more flexible schedule or the desires to have it. For hiring companies, it's also a huge opportunity because they can support learners and get access to the talent that they need and engage with foundation and companies as well. So we are mentioning Code University, for example, there's 8 companies starting year 1 with them. And it was also a way to shape new ways of working with the actual collaborators, but also with students. And last but not least, for the opportunities for governments, it's also a huge opportunity to test some faster models to partner with and to invest in. And that can be based, for example, on tax deductible trainings, which is something that we saw in France a lot with small trainings. And that's also going to be something that pushed towards more employment. So why is this breed of educated entrepreneurs key? Well, I believe that they're building the bridges with tomorrow's opportunity, one learning at a time. And this is why I think this is today a pretty hot topic. So I'm going to leave you also with a few questions to kind of open the appetite. What are the jobs of tomorrow? And don't think only about tech. There's also some wonderful things happening in services, for example. In health, there's going to be a booming demand for health. do you know how to help people to get there in terms of knowledge, in terms of know-how, in terms of learning communities or just mentorship? It can start small, and then you'll think about how you want to scale it and whether you want to scale it, because it's not only about startups, it's also about stable organization that don't need to become the next Facebook. Maybe that can be very impactful in your local library. And the last question is, how can you get started tomorrow? Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Margot. That was a lot of inspiration, a lot of good questions for people out there to start chewing on. Again, as I said before, we will open for some questions a little later, but let's do the last presentation or inspirational presentation before we dive into that. So I will now ask you, Sasha, to join me on stage and to reflect a little bit on some of the topics. I think you have already had some good topics here leading up to your presentation on diversity and gender, but please, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Lina, and welcome to everybody who is following us today. I don't have a background of educational professional, but I have a solid business background, as Lina introduced me, and hopefully through my presentation, I'll give the perspective of those who have a business lens. And I have put together a couple of slides because we are trained like this in the corporations to speak with slides. Education is preparing people for the future. And normally this is based on the experience in normal times. There is an opportunity to synthesize, to make from the scholars specific curriculum. Today we don't have this privilege because the changes and transformation in the world are so big and so intensive that we learn the future while we are creating it. And this is a big challenge before the educational system, because the old methods are not valid anymore. And I'm happy that Margot spoke before me, because she opened the door a little bit to this future education. But let me see why I cannot switch. And if we are to look in the future and to see how it looks like, obviously there will be a life between virtual and real, and we just a minute experienced this new effect that was not possible and not available just maybe a year or two ago. We have disruption in all business models, and totally new businesses are popping up in accordance to serve this changed reality. We are facing big challenge with the climate and biodiversity loss. That is also on the agenda of the people of tomorrow. And also the growing population and migration is something that today's students need to take care about with responsibility. So the educational system need to train people that are equipped with the right skills in accordance to be able to navigate within this totally new environment. And we speak more about digital skills today, and also this will be the focus of the EduHack. But digital knowledge is just a mean for us to address and to be equipped to address the bigger challenges of the day. And in pink, I have been outlining what are the skills from my perspective that we need to incorporate within the educational system today, in accordance our pupil and students to be equipped with the right knowledge. Obviously, these are digital knowledge. This is part of the new literacy, if you want, of the people. and lot has been done already. Entrepreneurship and creativity is very, very critical, because in this fast-changing reality, creativity and art become a critical skill for people to be able to navigate, to survive, to choose, to select, to make decisions. Within the educational system, using the new means, we need to incorporate, make sure that it is incorporated ecological and sustainability curricula. And also to make sure that we train people of tomorrow within the new ethical framework that is very much needed in accordance to be able to live between the real and virtual world. And not a surprise, in accordance to prepare for this future, today we need to mobilize the whole talent, but also to grow smartly the next generation talent. And if we look in what are the challenges of today, we can outline a couple of them that I will address a bit closer. Today, Europe needs 700,000 digital experts to address today's needs of the digital economy. We don't have those engineers. And we need to find a way to use formal, informal trainings, and also collaboration and practical models in accordance to serve the needs of today's economic competitiveness. There is a growing digital divide with the upcoming, and we are already in the first stages of the age of automation. We also have a big gender imbalance, men and women participation in this process. And I will stress on this topic a little bit more, why we need to look especially into women's situation, because this is the easiest and fastest pocket for Europe and for the world to address its economic needs on one hand, but there is also a need for more feminine attitudes in the leadership, in the business management, in the approach in these changing times. And if we have time, I can address this topic separately from my intro. The figure shows that today in Europe, only 17% of the digital professionals are women. The STEM female graduates, despite of lots of programs that exist, are 34%. And this already programs, if you want, this difference between men and women participation in the digital economy of tomorrow, and while having the understanding, hopefully everybody who is on this dialogue, that the whole economy tomorrow will be digital. So we need to address this topic. There are specific heritages, if you want, from the past, but also from the biases within the society, and among them is that women are 11% less paid on European level, specifically within the digital industry. And we also have very few female-led startups, which is the topic of our digital hackathon also, how we stimulate more girls to become entrepreneurs, to start their businesses. And again, one figure showing that there is, if not discrimination, still at least prejudices on male-female territories, is the fact that only 2% of the world money, investment money, are going today into female-led ventures. And if I can quote some of the studies that European Commission introduced recently, so if there is a balance between men and women, gender balance within the new economy, Europe will create more than 10 billion new jobs and revenue of between 2 and 3 billion for the future. So we need to do something about the topic, and we need to find a way to overcome this reproducing over the time problems. And how education can help in this process? Obviously, there is a need of gender-neutral education curriculum. That's very, very critical, starting from very early, from the kindergartens already. And that's something that the teachers, but also the makers of the education curriculum of today, the modern one, the virtual one, the gamified one, should have on the agenda, and hopefully we'll have during the hackathon some fresh ideas around this. There is also a need to train the new, to incorporate within the training curriculum the entrepreneurship, creativity, and the financial culture. Why I'm mentioning also financial culture, because we know that there is a trend, more and more people tomorrow, and Margot also touched a little bit this topic, to work as freelancers, many to be entrepreneurs, many to do a couple of things, one solid jobs, but 2, 3 that are on a side. So financial culture is needed not only for the businesses, but also for the individual development and navigation within future. And this should be very, very practical through concrete cases and with participation of people from the respective majors, not only teachers. It is very important to get an exposure to the engineering and science experience since early age in the school. And when I say early age, I mean 5 years old, 10 years old, practical trainings, learning by doings. STEM and digital education should be, in my view, also involving moderated boys and girl project teams, balanced teams, so that these biases that comes from the family, that comes from the social cultural context, to be overcome, and school to play this transformational role. Beyond Tech Agenda is a territory where, by the way, women today have much bigger presence. In the context of what are the challenges of the future, obviously green and impact education using digital means, meaning green tech, and also all social development related businesses and initiatives using technology should be also part of the education for the future. And this goes hand in hand with the STEM and digital education. I see here a critical opportunity for female-led businesses to make it. Obviously, female role models in the schools, and also let's not forget the special work of the triangle parents, students, and teachers, because we need to educate the whole system to overcome these biases if we want to have the gender balance achieved. And I want to finish with a case study from my own experience within the Bulgarian Center of Women in Technology that I founded with a couple of female leaders, friends in Bulgaria. We are running a program called Entrepreneurial. And what was the motivation to find this project 5 years ago? Within the student companies in the schools, 65% of them are led by girls. And those are statistics from Junior Achievement. And by that time, 11% of the startups in Bulgaria, and the figure in Europe is unfortunately not better. 5 years ago, this was 7%. 5% of the startups was female-led. And I said to myself, what is happening with these girls for just 2 years? Why they are, with their entrepreneurial ideas, open, ready, in the safe environment, and in the real life, they don't continue? So the answer is obvious, and we decided to build up a project that is addressing exactly this topic, to overcome the limitations, the biases, the voices that says you are very good, but help me to grow my business because I'm a man, or the mother advising, you are a woman, let's have a flexible job to be able to drive the family. No, we decided to build up this project that invites girls from 16 till 25 to introduce their entrepreneurial project while they are still in the school time, in the safe time, and to say to the world that me with this idea and to make a step. It is a web platform, it is very successful. So the result is, and that's the only reason to introduce this project, is that for 5 years, with very small investment from, if you want, the non-formal education, because we are giving a little bit of mentorship, investment from the business that goes hand to hand in teaching and growing with the formal educational systems, more than 200 female-led enterprises grew. So there are ways, but we need to zoom a little bit closer to this topic and to make sure that girls are encouraged and women are supported in accordance to grow entrepreneurs, and school, university, but also informal circles are key to play a role into changing these stereotypes that we carry still from the past. Let's hack the future with the femininity, and I hope the hackathon will be a venue for very good ideas in the future. And just one topic that was inspired from a discussion with my friend who has a game studio for games. And he said because of being majority of the developers in the team are men, we don't have a profile for the avatars, how they behave, how they will, their, let's say, heroes are developing within the future. That's we are imposing our men's view on the behavior of female heroes. So that's another.
Sorry, I think I will interrupt you here, because that's a very good stepping stone to get on with the discussion. And by the way,
Sure.
I have given you all the space you needed, because I was unmuted and I couldn't get back. I couldn't find my voice. My avatar was suddenly without a voice. So, but luckily you had so much to present. So thanks a lot for taking the stage that I gave to you really nicely with a lot of good points. I'm interrupting here because we are actually out of time now. I just wanted to flag to all the participants that we are aware that we have spent our 45 minutes plus a little bit, more or less the time that we had to jump off and jump back. But I think that kind of quote that you ended with, Sasha, was beautiful. let's hack the future with femininity. And you could say, kind of picking up on Margot's as well with diversity. So not only the diversity of genders, but also the diversity of many other kind of types of competencies and profiles. But I think what we have actually planned to do today was that now when the presentations were over, we would dive into much more of a question and answer mode and hopefully have some dialogue also with some of the participants on this call today. And since we have quite a few of you still here, even if the, let's say, schedule time is up, I think it's fair to ask if there are any questions out there that people would like us to put towards Sasha or Margot or Christina. Otherwise, I of course have a few ones noted down here from the inspiring presentations. But Ida, who is our chat moderator, have you captured anything that we should focus in on now, or can I moderate a little bit of Q&A?
Line, Ida here. Hi all, and apologies for the inconvenience in the middle of this community event. We try to avoid this a little bit better next time. However, I think that these discussions and these presentations have been extraordinary, and I think that there have been a lot of comments, or not comments, but feelings of this gender divide and everything, and I think that might even be one of the community theme that we could go deeper into in the future events. However, Line, I know that you have some really cool, nice questions, so maybe we can go on with your questions from here.
Yeah, I'm super happy to jump in with one or two questions for sure, and then just maybe inspire the participants out there to actually join us. We did plan for a few questions for you, but since the time is running, I think it's more fair to say, well, if you have questions, if there is something you want to point towards, please let us know by typing in the chat or potentially raising your hand. That's super fine. And let's dive into a few questions that are also just meant to inspire for topics for the hackathons in November as well. So I couldn't help thinking, I mean, I pointed towards a little bit here at the end, but you mentioned a few times the word diversity, Margot, and how to get that into teams. And I think Sasha nicely pointed towards that as well, that we do not have the diversity among our avatars when we design games. How do you think that diversity as a topic could be much more integrated into the trainings that we do with young entrepreneurs, Margot? Do you have a few reflections on that?
Yeah, I think diversity is obviously at each and every level of what we can imagine in terms of training, but it really starts with who wants to change something by creating a new training. And if I look at most of the projects that I've been doing, it was sadly, I really like them, but sadly it was often guys working in tech in their 30s. So already like changing the demographics of people who come up with ideas and training is one of the ways to go. So encouraging any kind of idea that can encourage any kind of change through a training. And it doesn't have here again like to be like the next Airbnb, but already starting with empowering someone with a new piece of information that then can turn into like a proper training that can turn into a proper nonprofit or company is one of the ways to go. And also celebrating different role models. And I'm sure that Sasha has also lots of data and documentation on that, like showing that there is a problem of representation and that it's really hard to dream it and to really make it a reality if you haven't seen a lot of people like you leading this kind of organizations.
Christina, what about you? Because you mentioned quite a lot of the issue of ownership of your data. And I would say, if we started really taking data seriously and understood who are the learners, and we would see that the learners are a diverse group, and then maybe we need to integrate that into the way we design the learning opportunities much more as well. Would there be some interesting topics in that area as well in order to, let's say, grow the diversity of those learning environments?
Absolutely.
Much more in, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think we are at the very beginning of this journey. So again, there are very important issues to consider when we start building edtech products, because as we start designing algorithms, right, and as we start putting pedagogical know-how into these tools, we have to ensure that this is done in a way that supports human potential. And I cannot stress enough the importance of diversity and genderless. So for me, the future is really one, my desired future at least, is one where we will no longer talk about women in tech and men in tech, because it's going to be basically inclusive. And we are going to go beyond gender discussions, and we are going to go also beyond only limited few having access, for example, to funding because they went to certain schools, certain universities. So we are going to open up and really support especially the young people today, you know, to fulfill their potential. I think we have a moral duty towards the future of the world, our young people, to best support them. And we can do so on one hand by role modeling. I think this is really important. Somebody has to lead the way. And then by also designing tools that they use that can empower them. And this has to do with design, user-centric. It has to do with, again, what kind of innovative pedagogies are we plugging in these tools? It has to do with how we treat the data that we are collecting. And I think, again, we are at the moment where we have a unique opportunity to look and design a new system that can make education what it should be, right? So education is life itself in the end. So it's something that should support us all at the end of the day to have great relationships, to work with each other, to build things together, and to take care of our ecosystem. So I'm on the optimistic side of things, and this is why I cannot stress enough the importance of events like DigiEduHack, because, and we were talking with Margot before, the system is the people, right? So we are the system, and it is really up to us to gather, to come around the table and to decide and to, you know, create the future that we want to live in.
Yeah. Cool. Sasha, I know that, yeah, and I can even see that you're raising your hand. I actually wanted to ask you, like, I know that you in one of our prep talks here mentioned gender neutral education and training. I mean, that we should be much better, and I guess that also goes to your example with the avatar. We should be much better at looking at the person and not necessarily the gender or whatever they're bringing. Is that what your idea is here for how to maybe start solving some of these issues?
My point here is that we still reproduce the blue red model in every dimension of our life, including in the education. And we should be careful, and the teacher should be careful that from very early, there is no this difference that girls are with the dolls and boys are with the constructors, because we just reconfirm these differences. But I just wanted to make a reflection on what Christina said, because that's very, very important. The point is that at the moment, all innovative methods are happening. They happen somewhere in informal groups and classes, and the challenge is how to really map what's going on in the world and to be able to synthesize and integrate the best what can fit and can be uniform to the extension we can speak about, but to be incorporated within the mainstream educational system. Because the truth is that the open-minded parents, people that can afford to pay for extra curricula, they take care that their children are well covered also with and prepared for the future. But if we want to really equip everybody or many, which has lots of social and economic consequences, and we can speak about this in different webinars. What if we don't equip people with the right skills for the future? So then we should really find a way that those best practices, revolutionary practices, are integrated within the mainstream system, and also to have certain minimal standards towards digital skills, STEM, creativity, the STEAM approach, but also making sure that while we train people with for the digital world, with equal focus, we train them for the real world, meaning that they are outside, that they are in the garden, that they are in the forest to love the nature, because only with coders we won't save the future either. So those are the components. And coming back to the diversity question, it is good to train the trainers and hopefully also the parents, and to make sure that girls are encouraged to dare to make a step.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot for that reflection. We do still have a few minutes left if there is somebody who wants to jump in with a question. Otherwise, I don't know if Margot or Christina, if there are any topics that you would like to shine a light on here just before we end the session for today.
I would definitely take advantage of 1 minute to highlight the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration. And I think this is what the DigiEduHack is all about. You know, so it's important that people feel empowered. It doesn't matter, like you can be just a team of 3 people and want to get your head around a very specific question. And I think this is what's gonna allow us to have many ideas that will lead eventually to the biggest solutions that we are looking for.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that reflection, Christina. Margot, do you have anything specific that you want to shine a light on and to inspire people to start thinking about before they go home and hopefully design their agendas for a hackathon in November?
Sure. I mean, actually, I would love, because it's been maybe out of fear that it happens again. It's been like the 4 of us speaking to the audience that stay silent. But all of us can actually type in the chats. And I would love to welcome all of you who've been attending this session to maybe share one takeaway from this session, like one core idea that you might have or something that we left you with. And it can be a question, it can be a stat, like a statistic, it can be anything. I would be curious to see what sticks.
That's an excellent idea. And I also just want to point to the fact that for the ones that have already registered to become a host in November for one of the DigiEduHacks, we have the Slack channel set up for all of you, and we can also continue the discussion there if you feel interested in that. But I think I will, just before maybe we open the chat, then Margot, I just want to thank the 3 of you for joining in here today. It was somewhat of a special event with some uninvited guests and me losing the power over the facilitation tool as well. But nonetheless,
it's our reality.
It is, and nonetheless, it was a super interesting event with a lot of good inspiration, I think. So let's hope that our audience out there feels the same as well. I just want to mention very briefly before we go to focus in on a little bit on the chat and what people are bringing with them, that there is another event next week, Wednesday next week, September 30th, where we will be focusing in on digital skills and NGOs' roles in digital education. So the non-formal kind of trainings that are also important to grow the digital skills for tomorrow. But I want to, inspired by Margot, ask all of you maybe to just take a second of reflection on what you're bringing from today. Is there a specific topic that you find interesting that you might want to work with in one of the hacks, or at least that you will bring with you from today that has inspired you? Then we would love to see it in the chat. I know you most likely all know where the chat is, at the bottom of the bar here. And if you open it and just type a word or a sentence, that will be a huge inspiration to us as we start to close down the event for today. So I hope that you're up for, and you could just go ahead, type a word, type a inspiration, a feeling, something that's of interest to you that you will bring with you from today. before we just in a few minutes close down the call. And I think Margot, Sasha and Christina, you're of course also welcome to do that if there is something you would like to capture in the chat that you find that you are leaving with today.
I would like to send a warm hug to all hosts who I think are so important, not only for the event, but again, for shaping the future of education. So thank you so much, everybody, for registering as a host. Please do encourage as many people you know to do the same. I think the team at DigiEduHack by now has done a wonderful job in creating materials that support you to organize really easily such an event. And we cannot wait to see you and your ideas on day 0.
Thanks for that, Christina. So we do see a few people writing in the chat. Most of it is thank you. There are a few topics as well, so thanks a lot for that. Definitely topics like collaboration and cross-gender and professions is a topic that many of us are leading with today. So thanks a lot for shining a light on that, all 3 of you. There are still a few more seconds if any of you want to post something in the chat, but I can see that people are also now starting to leave, which is fair because we are running much later than we've set, and even the additional time that we had organized for is almost up now. So I think with this, I just want to thank all of you for joining, both the presenters and the participants, and hope to see many of you next Wednesday. And you can sign up via the website again. We hope to see many of you here discussing the topics and challenges that we can inspire people to work on during the Digital Education Hackathon in November 12th and 13th this year. So have a nice afternoon up there. Stay safe and see you next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.